to Live with the Louhs with your hosts, Father Nicholas and Dr. Roxanne Lowe, where we will connect our Orthodox faith to day-to-day living and relationships to our family, our work, and our view of ourselves. Father Nicholas is the priest at St. John the Divine Greek Orthodox Church in Jacksonville, and Dr. Roxanne is a licensed clinical psychologist who uses her extensive training in private practice. Here now is Father Nicholas and Dr. Roxanne.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Live with the Louhs. We are so excited that you're taking the time to join us on this Tuesday, August 29th. If you're new to Live with the Louhs, the show basically merges both faith and psychology to give you some guiding principles that you can abide by and live through in your own walk of faith each and every day. So thanks so much for being with us. And if you're new to our show airs every single Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Ancient Faith Radio. Before we get into tonight's really cool topic, I do want to invite all of you to stay connected to us on our social media platforms. Friends, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, all under the headings of The Louhs, and that last name is spelled Louhs. And basically all of our sermons, in fact, are archived under the Louhs YouTube channel, as we encourage you to subscribe to that. But also, if you're looking for a daily word of encouragement, Roxanne and I began this a couple years ago, where we just kind of send out a message to people every single day at 7 a.m. Eastern Time in their email inbox. If you would like to receive one, simply go to our website at thelouhs.com. That's thelouhs.com/subscribe. And all you have to do is simply put in your email address. Whether you're part of our church or part of the Orthodox Church, it doesn't really matter. We just want to be a source of hope and light in your life. And so if you find it beneficial, do us a favor. Share with your friends and family. Many people receive those messages every single day. And it's just a way that we can kind of make a difference in our world. So again, we're there. And as we share with you every single Tuesday evening, we'd love to hear from you. There's something beautiful about having a conversation. And so feel free to call us this evening. You can call us at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-237-2346. Or you can email us a question at ask@ancientfaith.com. That's ask@ancientfaith.com. So let's get started. You know, friends, today we're discussing an area that I'm so passionate about, an area that so many people, to be quite honest with you, one of the biggest demographics within our nation and within the church today that seems to be falling away from Christianity. They represent the largest demographic actually leaving the Christian church. And so I thought that I'd begin this evening by just simply sharing with you some statistics before we introduce to all of you our special guest. Of Americans ages 18 to 29, studies are reflecting that only 21% of these young people go to church on a weekly basis. And only 27% are praying daily. And then one other study that we found, it was actually reflected a little bit lower of an amount, closer to 17% of these young adults are praying daily. Even more concerning is the finding that only 31% of young adults actually say that they believe in God and believe in the God that's described in the Bible. During the COVID pandemic, almost 48% of our young adults struggled with mental health issues. And 1 in 3 young adults are on some sort of antidepressant medication. These are the statistics that are out there. In a Harvard study that I read earlier this week, it found that almost 61% of young adults are struggling with what the Surgeon General calls one of the greatest epidemics plaguing our society. They're struggling with loneliness. So how do we help our young adults? And specifically, how do we help our college students? What are ministries that are out there today that can help them stay connected to Christ, the church, and to others? Here to talk to us about this topic and much more is a very dear friend of mine. His name is Deacon Marek Simon, and he's the Executive Director of Orthodox Campus Christian Fellowship. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Deacon Marek formerly served at the Antiochian Village Camp from 2002 to 2019, where he oversaw the program development and advancement efforts of the camp. If you're not familiar, the Antiochian Village is one of the preeminent summer camps in the country. He supervised and mentored camp staff and managed his team building's ropes course program. He was formerly connected with OCF as well, serving as the advisor to the Student Leadership Board from 2005 to 2009. He has a deep passion about working with students and staff at OCF, seeking to strengthen the mission, programs, and to impact the lives of college students. My dear brother Deacon Marek, welcome to Live with the Louhs.
Thank you, Father Nick. It's wonderful to be here, and it's good to spend time with you, and thank you for this opportunity to have this conversation.
Absolutely. I know that you and I both share this desire to make a difference in our young adults because we're seeing such a dramatic need. And as I was sharing with those statistics earlier, just really a deep concern within the Christian church across the board with this age group of 18 to 35 leaving the church. I was reading another statistic earlier that said 70% of men, of college men, would end up leaving Christianity or leaving the church, and 65% of young adolescent women. What are those, when you hear those statistics, I mean, what are the things that concern you the most about what we're sharing with you, these statistics?
Well, I would put a second to everything you said. I've read many of the same statistics, and the research is sound. And I think what we have to do is ask ourselves as a church, and what I have to do is ask ourselves as a ministry, are we doing everything possible to be engaged with these students while they're in college? Because I think sometimes our prevailing mindset is, oh, this is their year to go away and blossom, and they'll be back. And they'll surely get married in the church, and they'll surely bring up their kids in the church. And what's starting to happen is that what used to be the case, a few generations ago is not the case today. They're not coming back. And it's a problem for the present. It's a problem for the future. And regardless of whether they come back or not, we need to be there for them during their college years, because they need us, and they need the church, and most importantly, they need Christ.
Mm-hmm. Just to kind of build on what you were just sharing, I mean, what are some of the prevalent themes that you found among students as they journey through college, as it relates to the challenges that they're facing and their concerns or worries, just to kind of figure out their own life? I mean, tell us what are some of the themes, or at least enlighten us as to what some of those things are.
Absolutely. I think the first thing that jumps out at me is they're looking for community and relationships. They're leaving home, going to camp, or many of them are leaving home and going to campus, and they're wondering, where am I going to fit in? There's probably hundreds of thousands of college students who just moved away for their freshman year of college, or are just about to. And, are people going to be like me? Or, where will I find my group? Or am I going to meet my future spouse while I'm in college? And they've got all these questions that are ambiguous to them. And as much as they're excited about going to college, they're seeking connection. And alongside of that, being able to fit in and find connection. And what I believe the church can offer is more than connection, but is rich community for these people, for these students. And, to answer your question a little more, I think many of them, some of the other themes that we're finding echoes this, one of the statistics you gave, is there's a lot of anxiety and depression among college students. I think we're seeing it as a whole society, but it certainly exists within the college ranks of those young adults. And I think within their faith, so the ones that have at least grown up in the church are really exploring questions like, if I'm going to be a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, or a teacher, how do I fit in my church in that role? Like, I know my priest fits in, I know like the deacons fit in, but where do I fit in as a young adult? And where will I fit in as someone? How will I be faithful to Christ during my college years and in my vocation? I think is something that is on their mind.
Right.
As well as like, is there a right way to be an Orthodox woman or man? And through a lot of our retreats and conversations with college students, they want to, like, they're striving for excellence, and that even is within their faith, and they really want to explore, like, how do I be the ones that know they want to be committed to the church already and to Christ? How do I do that to the best of my ability?
I love that. I think, as I'm hearing you speak, I can't help but think, how powerful it is that churches provide ministries, campus ministries, specifically for those college students, and how your ministry, OCF, does just that. And if you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Deacon Marek Simon. He's the Executive Director of Orthodox Christian Fellowship. It's an organization, a ministry of the Orthodox Church that really aims to connect our young college students and really young adults in the church, and as well as have the church connected to them. And it's a great opportunity. If you've got a college student and you'd like to speak with Deacon Marek, we welcome and invite you to do so. You can call us at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-237-2346, or email us a question at ask@ancientfaith.com. I'll be checking my email throughout the show. But, Deacon Marek, as I'm talking to you, I can't help but think about, when we look at these statistics, and again, we go back to this because at the end of the day, so often we can look at these as just simply statistics or numbers, but these are souls. And when we're seeing just the sheer amount of really an exodus, if you will, of young adults leaving the church, and you sharing with us basically what you're seeing and what are their needs, it really should be, it really becomes so powerful that we're not only just simply maintaining the college students that are coming into our community, but really going out and making them feel like they're at home, because what better place to make someone feel at home than the spiritual home of the church? But, paint for us a picture. I think sometimes, we get caught up in it's college, it's like you were saying earlier, it's the, college football, it's, going to spread my wings, all that stuff. And there's beauty in that, don't get me wrong, but paint for us the landscape of what college students are experiencing right now. Help us to kind of walk into that, walk into their lives so that we can better understand what their needs are.
I think the one thing in our staff, we've discussed this a lot, and I think the thing that jumps out to be the most is really, honestly, it's something a student said to me, or we were down at Georgia Tech University in Atlanta, and we were visiting with some students, and one of them said to me, what I've found is, as a college student, you're either a workaholic or an alcoholic. And at first I kind of paused and I said, say more about that. Like, what do you mean? And he said, well, he's like, everything here is so focused on money and career and making sure that, like, you've got to get the right internship so that you can get the best job. And you've got to get out of debt as soon as possible. And it becomes so laser focused on something very specific. For him, it was his major. But I think the biggest thing that I've noticed in conversation is, I think a lot of things are similar to when you and I were in college, but I think one thing that's different that I've noticed is the education is less on personal formation as a whole human being, and more focused on get your degree so you can get the best job possible and thrive and live the American dream, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think we oftentimes talk about that, is that, we have this, it's great to be ambitious and goal-oriented and desire to get your college education, get a degree, and make something and do something. But I think what we define as success, obviously varies from what I believe, what Christ yearns for and what the world itself tells us. Do you find that, a lot of the, do you find that a lot of the young adults that you're, communicating with, when they're asking for guidance, what are the topics that they seem to spend a great deal of time wanting guidance on? It's one thing to talk about, what my purpose in life is, but are there issues that you start seeing more and more that are just much more prevalent issues that they deal with that that they're asking for the church and obviously in your role to speak about and to guide them with?
Yes, I mean, I think certainly some of the hot topics in society are things that they want to hear from the church about. I also, one of the things that has struck me is how would I say this? They are very interested in going beyond what they experienced growing up and learning about the X's and O's of Orthodoxy. They want to know, how is my faith relevant to my life? I love the fact that I know what colors mean what in the church and why this icon looks this way and why the priest lifts this or says that. And I need to know, why does it matter in my life as I go through college or when I'm raising my family in 10 years, God willing. And those are the topics that the students are being most engaged with, is the relevance in their daily lives and weekly lives as they go through college. Yeah,
and I think, just I'm sure we've done a couple of retreats with young adults, and some of the things that we oftentimes hear is exactly that, is how do I make my faith applicable? Like how do I take what I'm learning on a Sunday morning or hearing or experiencing on a Sunday morning and apply it on a Monday when I'm in class, when I'm at that party, when I'm at that event. And I think, one of the struggles that I think the church is, especially traditional churches are facing is this, and I'm sure you feel the same way about this, Deacon, is the times are changing so quickly, and what was, taboo, years ago is now the norm today. But not only just the value system, but also just the level of information that's being disseminated, how quickly things are being shared with them, whether it be on their social media platforms, the marketing that's being geared towards this particular group. And I just wonder, I would imagine that it's so difficult, not only with their academics, pressures and responsibilities, to be able to kind of take time to just be quiet and to connect with Christ. I mean, you have to be extraordinarily intentional, because I think of that particular age group, it seems like there's just so much coming at them from every single angle.
For all of us, I think that's the case. And I think we've spent some time in silence with some of our student leaders, and I've done it with youth groups a lot, and it's remarkable to hear them say like how refreshing that was. Also how hard it was, because they're not used to it. But you mentioned even like the social media, and I think the other thing that came to mind when you said that was something that the students have indicated, like because of what they see on social media, how do I love my neighbor and still like, even if I disagree with them. And sometimes social media brings to us kind of our own brokenness, and they want to know how to heal from that. Like, how do I put myself on a course for healing? And a lot of times it starts with silence and listening for God and that sort of thing. As I'm just looking at, and experiencing with what we're seeing in the world today, I can't help but I was thinking of this question that, when you're looking at Orthodox Christian fellowship, what's the most exciting opportunities that you're seeing in campus ministry right now that you feel like OCF can really tap into that may have not been that way a couple years ago? Absolutely. I'll mention this and not dwell on it because I'll talk for 2 hours on it, but we're really making an intentional effort to build rich community on campus by hiring full-time staff and placing them on campus. We have our first location that just launched about 2 weeks ago. I'll say more about that, but I think the other thing that has jumped out to us is there's a lot of young people whose faith has been reinvigorated and are starting to come to the church at their time in college. I was just in Boston the beginning of August for our Summer Leadership Institute. And there was probably 40% of the students there were converts, many of whom had converted to Orthodoxy while in college or very recently. And so we're starting to see, and I'm even seeing that in my home parish.
I was going to say, I think it was an article in the Wall Street Journal, I think several weeks back, about the amount of young adults that are finding the Orthodox Church, but which I find quite intriguing on so many levels. Maybe one of the silver linings of the COVID pandemic, of that people were able to watch services online that they typically would not have done outside of simply watching it.
Absolutely, and that's why I think having staff on campus is critical, because that's where they're searching and they're looking and they're seeking, and they want to know they're loved and cared for, and we can be that loving presence of Christ for them on campus.
We're speaking with Deacon Marek Simon. He is the executive director of OCF. It's a ministry geared towards our college students and young adults as well. If you'd like to speak with him, we invite you to do so. You can call us at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-237-2346. Or email us a question at ask@ancientfaith.com. That's ask@ancientfaith.com. Deacon Marek, I got this question that just came in. I wanted to share it with you.
Sure.
The question is this: how do we encourage our students to stay involved in the Orthodox faith when we as a church don't have as much exposure as, say, non-denominational churches on college campuses, or OCF does not have an active chapter on that particular campus? As parents, how do we advise our students? Do we say at least you're going to go to church or watch it online? How can we guide this parent?
It's a really great question, because as much as I would have it different, there's a lot of places where OCF is not present, or where our presence is minimal at best. And I think as this ministry grows, we can continue to address that. But the fact of the matter now is, there's a young lady from my parish that just went off to college, and she's met one other Orthodox student so far. The closest church is over 20 minutes away, and so it poses a lot of logistical issues. And I would say something that they should consider is connecting them with OCF. And say, I think sometimes as parents we want the best for our children, but we also have to be mindful of letting them make their own decisions and sharing them. Here's some opportunities. Hey, I don't know if you know about OCF, but did you know that they have small groups which meet virtually, and these are small groups of men and women that meet weekly and talk about life, and it's led by a facilitator who's been trained. Or we have, I think we have about a half a dozen retreats planned for the fall semester, and then again for the spring semester. We have an online community on Discord where there's discussions from something as what might seem as nominal as favorite music to more intense topics like spiritual discussions that gauge or attract people's interests. And so to share with them, share with us like contact information so we can be in communication with them, but that there's opportunities, because most of them, they want to be doing something with their peers. And if their peers, if there's no Orthodox presence on campus, if there is, and their peers are doing it, and they go or they meet peers, and they're like, wow, you guys are just like me, and you grew up in the same church as me, and I'm coming back every week. But if they don't have that, they're going to find it somewhere else, whether that's in a fraternity or sorority or another a campus ministry group. But one of the things that we've learned over the past few years, especially during COVID, but even coming out of COVID, is there's a lot of students who don't have that connection on campus, and they're seeking it. and we're blessed. Like I mentioned, our Discord server, there's, I believe, over 600 students that are members of that.
Beautiful.
So it's a great opportunity, and everyone's connected online anyway. But I think those are some things that come to mind. Is that helpful?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Tell our listeners where they can find all that information so that they know.
Absolutely. If you go to our website, ocf.net, there are, and that's ocf.net. There's opportunities, there's a menu of getting connected, which share many of the wonderful opportunities where we list for students, honestly, the best way, they can go to our website, but the best way is to follow us on Instagram. Because as things come up, we're continually posting, and we do send out emails as well. But honestly, the things that will attract students the most are going to be able to like see their peers talking about things on Instagram or hearing or getting connected. That's where they're going, and that's been kind of our primary connection point with students over the past few years, and we're ever mindful of that. It may change, but general information's on our website. But in terms of up to date, like in a couple weeks, we're going to be launching registration for college conference, and all of the details will be announced on Instagram with links so that people can learn more or sign up, that sort of thing.
Is that college conference, is that still held at the Antiochian Village, or is it rotate in different locations?
We have two of them currently. They happen at the same time. One is at Antiochian Village in Pennsylvania. The other is at St. Yakovos Retreat Center north of Chicago. And like, for instance, last year there was about 300 students that attended college conference, and it's a great opportunity to have some spiritually enriching discussions and meet a lot of other Orthodox or people that are interested in Orthodoxy in a setting that is your peers.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it's ocf.net. That's where you can find a lot of information, friends. Let's continue the conversation, though, Deacon Marek. I mean, I hear about all the great things that you guys are doing, but we also recognize that there are also challenges that OCF is facing. Can you help us understand some of those as well?
Yes. I think two things really jump out at me. The first is that, like you just said, college conference is an amazing time for students. It's a very high impact experience. Or if any of the listeners have ever gone on or had a child go on a real break trip, it's pretty significant. But the fact of the matter is, students are on campus Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, this week, next week, the following week, until, with the exception of going home for Thanksgiving. That's the trenches, if you will. And one of our realizations when we really took an in-depth look at our ministry a few years ago is that we've traditionally relied on volunteers to meet with students, and typically that's clergy or faculty or sometimes lay people. And thank God these people are involved and engaged with these college students. And most of them have very limited time to do so because they have other commitments and responsibilities. They have parishes to serve or classes to teach. And for us, ministry, like as we think about the evolution of this ministry, it's really about investing in the lives of students and walking alongside them, and sure, coming together every other week or however often might help. The vision we have has a much greater depth to it. It's like having a campus missionary on campus 40 hours a week that's checking in on students, having Bible studies, but also meeting with John or Mary at the coffee shop and having conversations about life, but to really be engaged in a way with students that really hasn't happened to this depth on campus. I think that's one of the huge challenges we face is how do we build that? I just mentioned we have our first this year. We're going to have a second and possibly third a year from now. But I don't want 2 or 3. I want 100 or 200 of these, because there's campuses all over this country, and we need to build a network of staff that are on campus and loving and serving students and in a way. And that, which leads into the second challenge, is something you hear common in ministry, but is funding the ministry. It to hire someone full time costs money. It's an investment, but we need the church as a whole. We need individuals, organizations, foundations that really see value in what we're doing. To connect with them and really step forth and say, we believe in this and we care about it so much, and we're going to support you, and we're going to do so in a way that facilitates the vision you have for this ministry. Because it is, we're at Texas A&M this current academic year, and our budget is right at 6 figures for the academic year just for that location, between having a staff person and a ministry budget for the students and things like that, and other considerations. And so if you think about it, you can quickly do the math and see where this is going. What if we have 10 schools or 25 schools? We've really got to lean on the church as a whole, and by that I mean not just archdioceses or jurisdictions, but the body of the church, to say, yes, we believe this is important, and we're going to put our money where our mouth is.
Well, and what's interesting too is the fact that, these statistics that we're seeing, where 70% of young adult males will leave the church and not return, and then 65% of women, or of young women, will follow the same trajectory. I mean, it's almost as if we really have no choice. I mean, it is incumbent upon us that, just simply looking at the souls of the people, that, Christ leaves the 99 to go get the one. I mean, we're losing a lot more than just one in these, in this age group. And I think, one of the things I would probably encourage the young college students that may be listening, or maybe through their parents, that it could be conveyed to them, is how significant just that fellowship with one another. And you mentioned that, Deacon Marek, about just being with each other, with people that share the same viewpoints, the desire, because the old adage is, show me your friends and I'll show you your life, and the Bible speaks about bad company corrupts good character. There's an importance of just simply being together with people that may have differences on certain topics, but at the end of the day, they're all in the same boat. They're all yearning to grow in Christ, and circling yourself around people like that, how beneficial that is. And so I think OCF really is just one of the great ministries that you should take advantage of. But the reality is, as you mentioned, Deacon Marek, is that there are a lot of schools that do not have OCF programs. What do you suggest for a parent that may be tuning in right now, where their child, their college student, is not does not have a school where an OCF program is there? What would you suggest? How do they stay connected outside of doing the things that as you were talking about with regards to the Instagram accounts and the different platforms that you guys provide? Would there be, trying to find obviously a local church, but just thinking of, there's so many universities and colleges that, right now it just seems like such a daunting task. That it's a goal, but it's a task that we're not quite there yet. Yeah, how do you help a parent that may be concerned about that?
It's a great question. I remember a conversation that I had with a young lady that actually was one of our student leaders. And it was interesting to me because she was not involved in OCF like on campus, because it just didn't exist and there was no one there. And I asked her, I said, how did you get to be involved with OCF? You don't even have OCF on your campus. And she said, she said it was her aunt that mentioned OCF to her. and she just looked into it, and she went to a college conference one December when she was on break, and made all of these friends and started staying in touch, and that also like led to her getting more involved, and then she was wanting to be involved in planning college conference and that sort of thing. It becomes a lot more challenging. How do you connect someone locally if there's nothing local? If there's no parish close by, if there's no, I think what I would, this probably doesn't directly answer your question, but as parents think about sending their high school juniors and seniors off to college, I think that even parishes like OCF should be a consideration. Like, look for schools that either have OCFs or that are close to a church, because it just becomes so much harder to find that connection and that community if it doesn't exist.
Right.
At the school you're at.
I know in our parish here in Jacksonville, we like every year before our OCF provides these beautiful bags or packages for college students that to give, and we basically fill these little boxes that with a Bible and with other things that OCF provides, and we give them as gifts to our college students. And I think that even in the smallest things, that if every parish made a commitment that they were going to reach out to the college students that are in their community, and if every priest could provide that information to the other communities where those college students are going to be, which is so powerful. I mean, imagine the network that we would create. So I think that it's just so. I think what you're sharing with us is really a lot of this is, as parents and as church leaders, are things that there's so much that we need to be doing to come alongside you at OCF to help in this ministry, to help provide, such a vulnerable demographic of our community to be able to find a connection. It concerns me too, Deacon, and when you read about just this pandemic now of that they're talking about a lot more now, and that is of loneliness. I remember when I went to the seminary, and you and I were around the same time, but I had never left home, and I remember, I was going to a seminary, but there was still a level of loneliness when I left. I was coming from Florida, living in Boston, didn't know anyone there, and I remember those first several months of just trying to, get my feet underneath me and just trying to find connection, and how difficult that was. Not that because of anything that was at the school, but just on my own, and just learning about myself. And it's amazing how college students during this time are just trying to not only, learn about the academics, learn about the church, but also just learn a lot about themselves. That was one of the most, I guess, eye-opening experiences of my life, was having to be forced to kind of go away from the security of my parents' home, and to go out there and to be able to kind of find myself. Do you find that a lot when you're in your conversations? Just a lot of the young adults, the college students, are just maybe the first year or two, are just simply trying to find who they are, not to mention who they are in relationship to Christ?
Absolutely. It's something that I don't know that I don't know how readily many of them would admit it, but I do believe that they're searching for their identity. For most of them, it's their first time, kind of like you said, leaving that nest, and I truly believe they desire the best things in life for themselves, and that's not just in terms of how, what job they're going to have or who they're going to marry, but they really want the best. I believe many of them want the best connection with God, and the best connection with Christ. And in order for them to do that, it's really something that, as they get to campus and as they're searching, it can feel lonely. And that's why, what you mentioned, like a gift, or I know one of our board members told the story about how her parish used to make finals care packages, like right after Thanksgiving, but before finals. And they would mail them to all their college students who had either gone away, and they'd take them to the local college. And that was something that really made an impression on me, that like, imagine being a student and feeling lost or lonely or stressed because of finals.
Absolutely.
And then you get this care package from your home parish just thinking of you. It goes a long way. But as you said, you know, I think the most important thing that I see is like, we should not expect them nor want them to figure it out on their own.
Right.
And that's why we need to be there alongside of them. And that's why, in my mind, the future of this ministry is going to be largely focused on putting equipped campus missionaries on campus to walk alongside students during their 4 years or 5 years or whatever it ends up being.
So true, so true. We've only got a few minutes left in our show, Deacon Marek, but I do want to ask, you know, for the parents that are tuning in tonight and listening to this show, what advice would you give them, you know, with regards to parents of college students, high school juniors or seniors? You know, what should they? What are some just words of encouragement that you would give them, knowing that what is around the corner, what the struggles that their children are going to be facing?
Yes, I haven't experienced it yet, but I would imagine it would be a very a time of great animosity, getting ready to send your children or child away to school. And I think in anticipation with that, to just engage them in conversations like regularly about, you know, what life away from home would be like and what they're excited about and if they're scared of anything and what their priorities may or may not be. But to just, you know, as they're coming into adulthood, to recognize that and engage them in conversation as best we can about, you know, what's on their mind and what they're thinking. You know, when you go to take them to campus for the first time, go find a church. And, you know, call the priest up and say, hey, we're going to be moving in on Thursday. Can you meet us for lunch, or whatever the case might be? Find out who the OCF leaders are. While you're there, I mean, through our website, you can go, and all of our chapters that we have contact information, updated contact information. You can get that on our website and search by state or by school or whatever that's going to be. And then I think the other things, one of our staff, Christine, always says this, like to parents, it's going to be okay. Like don't drive yourself crazy trying to do the right thing that's going to be perfect for them as they prepare to leave for college. Just be the best parent you can be, and,
that's good.
And be willing to engage with them, and know that that God wants what's best for all of us. And then I think the last thing is just, you know, make sure we know where your student is attending college and how to be in touch with them, so we can connect them to opportunities and possibilities for being involved in OCF.
I love that. I think that's such good, you know, information. I know that, you know, our son George's, we started doing church or school college tours, and that was one of the things that we were looking at was, you know, where are his likings, the colleges that he's looking at, but in relationship to churches that he can grow in and be part of. And, you know, one of the things I would just add to what you're sharing, because it's such powerful information, Deacon Marek, that you've shared, not only then, but just the entire evening, is also just trying your best to model what you want that life to look like. And that is that, you know, if the statistics, as we mentioned at the top of the show, are reflecting that only 11% of our homes are actually praying regularly. I mean, maybe that's what we need to start doing more of. Excuse me, I'm battling a little bit of a cold, but you know, or even modeling the reading of our Bible. You know, that only 3% of Christians read their Bible on a daily basis. I mean, those are things that are so difficult, and we oftentimes say, how can we know how to live out our life or understand what our purpose is or what God's dream is in our life if we're not reading the owner's manual, if we're not taking time to just like grow in Christ. So I think in addition to what Deacon Marek was sharing, friends, I would also just challenge you all that, look, as a parent, both of us are parents and we know this. I mean, we make mistakes. None of us are perfect, but try your best to model that behavior of every day putting God first, where you're reading the Bible, you're praying, not just to simply show it to them, but also for your own spiritual growth, because, I oftentimes tell people that, God loves our children more than we do. I mean, and that's a lot. So just challenge yourself to be purposeful in your own walk of faith, because, like the old adage is that more is caught than taught, and the fact that our children can see what we're doing and what we value, they too will find value in that in their own lives. Deacon Marek, any final words that you'd like to share with our audience?
Just thank you for listening, and know that our contact information is on our website. If anything I've said or Father Nick has said is inspired you at all, we're blessed for the next 2 days until the end of the month to have a back to school campaign running, which I feel compelled to share, because we're very close to reaching our goal. And if you feel so compelled and inspired, if you go to our website, there is a banner right towards the top which will share information about that.
And that website again, Deacon Marek?
www.ocf.net.
Mm-hmm.
ocf.net. And we're in the midst of planning, like I said, a dozen or so retreats for the upcoming school year. The college conferences, spring break trips for college students, and just really involving them. And we have great plans for this year. And like I said, I'd ask for your support, not only financially, but really to your support in the lives of these college students, the ones that to reach out to them, the ones who might come to your church, to take the time to introduce yourself and say, hey, can me and my wife take you out to lunch? Or, but to really let these college students know that they're cared for, and that their presence means something in our lives, in our parishes, that sort of thing.
I love that. I think that's so beautiful. And Deacon Marek, as you guys are going throughout the year, as we'd love to get updates as to when the next college conferences are, the retreats, and I hope that you'll come back on our show and be able to share that with us, and also share the progress of what's going on at OCF. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with me this evening, and I apologize at the top of the show. We had some technical difficulties, but I'm so happy to see you and see your great work, and rest assured of our prayers for you and for OCF. But thanks again.
Thank you, Father Nick. I'm delighted to spend time with you, and thank you for the opportunity. And God willing, good fruits will come from our efforts.
Absolutely. Amen. We want to thank also Matushka Trudy for producing tonight's show, and she does such an amazing job. Every Tuesday she's producing our show. And as I close, I just wanted to encourage all of you, if you're looking for just a word of encouragement or a daily inspiration, as we mentioned at the top of the show, go to our website right now and go to thelouhs.com/subscribe and simply put in your email address. That's thelouhs.com/subscribe. Put in your email address, and tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., you will receive that day's inspirational message. And just want to encourage you to just find ways every day to grow in your walk of faith. Next Tuesday, we're going to be speaking with a therapist, Sylvia Farish, about really what our young adults, our young adolescents actually are experiencing. We've dedicated these 2 shows, tonight and next Tuesday, to our young youth and young adults. She's going to be talking about just what we're seeing with body image issues, low self-esteem, all these different areas that our young teenagers are experiencing, not to mention all of the different moral attacks, as well as things that we're seeing that they're being attacked with on social media. We're going to have a conversation dedicated, a full hour dedicated to that. That'll be next Tuesday. We hope that you'll take the time to be with us. Once again, everyone, God bless you all, and stay strong in your walk of faith.
Father Nick and Dr. Roxanne are the authors of the book Renewing You, a priest, a psychologist, and a plan, which can be purchased at store.ancientfaith.com. Their daily inspirational messages can be found at thelouhs.com/subscribe. Be sure also to search for The Louhs on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Live with The Louhs is a listener-supported presentation of Ancient Faith Radio.